be successful in those businesses, because we all deal with the same issues. Whether you're running a pharmacy, or you're running real estate, or you're doing a restaurant, we're all dealing with differences in government regulations, in employee relations, whether, all of those different pieces of the puzzle all kind of come in together. So what I'm going to try to do today is kind of take us through and scan through and try to be very cognizant on time, because I know everybody has their own things that they need to do, and if you do need to leave, it's not a problem. Take off and go. And if you need a Wi-Fi, it's Sweet P16. So I know those of you that have cell phones and that kind of stuff, I get it. We're all business owners. We're all busy, so that's part of it. So let me take you through some of the pieces of what we have here. The very first thing that I talk about is when you're dealing with a business, one of the things that we deal with is what's in a name. What's your business name? A lot of times, a lot of companies come in and out in Rutherford County. They come in really quick. And interestingly enough, when you have an institution like Smith Drugs, and what about, there's probably, 1,000 Smith Drugs?
At least, yeah.
That are out there. Each one of you is, when you're going through, and one of the problems that I actually see a lot of that come in is, tell me about how I can protect my name. And normally, what we're dealing with is, I'm not Coca-Cola. I don't need a trade, I don't really know that I have to go through and make trademarks and those things, but what do I do to protect myself? In this, and kind of the story that I have, this is one of our clients several years ago in another place, had a business that was in lawn care. They had their own business, started running it. Sure enough, after running their business for about 3 years, another business came in. Very similar name. That went to that. Came to me and said, look, this is a problem. What are we going to do about it? So we sent them a letter saying, cease and desist, we've been established, we've been doing this. And sure enough, got a letter back from a lawyer that says, guess what? We have just as much right to it. So we ended up filing a lawsuit. We didn't have a trademark name. Didn't go through the process of making a logo and all those things in order to accomplish that. But what we did do is make sure that we filed and made sure that it was an incorporation filed with the Secretary of State. Because of that, the Judge Davis actually, went through the process and evaluated and gave us not only the name but damages as to that, because we'd filed first. It's one of the things that you want to make sure that you have done all the things necessary to make sure your name is established, that you have incorporated your business, which that in itself is something that people talk about. You got to incorporate, protect from liability, and to do these things. What I would say is, even if you're at a process where you're opening up a different line in what you're doing already, you want to do what you can to protect that name and possibly do a separate business, incorporate that name, and to protect that right. It's not something that we talk about a lot, but it is something that we can, that when it does come up, it's something that you want to make sure that you're protected on. Let me say that I all the time am hearing like commercials and things like that about incorporate your business and pay us money. You don't need a lawyer to incorporate your business, and all the forms are online. The Secretary of State sets it up. I don't know what LegalZoom or some of these others are really selling. I mean, all you have to do is go online and do it. And here's the beauty of it. If you get it wrong, the Secretary of State will send it back to you and say, here's what you need to fix it. and then and you just do what they tell you to do, and it will take care of itself. So you know, it's very frustrating to me to see a lot of small business owners spend a lot of money on legal fees or expenses and things that I think they're being somewhat taken advantage of. I mean, I know that I would tell my own clients to say, look, go ahead and incorporate yourself. Now, if we're going to be buying property and doing some other things like that, that's when it levels that part up. But I said, don't spend your money on that. And watch, you know, a lot of people just want to do an LLC. Have to remember, LLC is about $250 a year annual fee that you have to pay. And for a lot of businesses, that kind of money makes a difference. So a lot of times, say, look, talk to your accountant first, make sure you feel okay about it. But there's really, you get all the benefits of liability issues, things like that, through an incorporation.
Does it cost anything to be incorporated?
Only recently it does. I think it's like $25 now a year that you have to pay for an Inc. It's something is much lower. It used to be absolutely nothing to keep an incorporation.
If you are an LLC, I apologize,
I
I'm
was
wearing
gonna
two
ask
hats.
that.
Yeah, I'm wearing two hats now because my husband's self-employed. If you are an LLC, is it easy enough to switch over to incorporation?
You can switch over. I mean, there's nothing wrong with an LLC. It's just that I don't like to pay fees to the government for any reason, unless I'm getting some kind of benefit. Now, my company is set up, King Law Offices, and it's set up as a PLC. And there are some benefits to that because you can tax, with an LLC, you can tax corporately or you can tax individually. And there's times in which if you have a lot of capital that you're buying, you've got a lot of things that you can do expense-wise where you might want to tax your business as a corporation. So I'm not saying that LLC doesn't have some advantages from an Inc. It's just that a lot of people just think, oh, I'm supposed to have an LLC, or that's kind of the cool, trendy thing to do, or I'm not a corporation, I'm not big enough, or you know, things that really don't make any difference. And yes, you can alter that. Normally, when a company though is already involved in it, I would have an accountant do that, whoever's dealing with taxes, because you definitely do not want to go through taxing a business as an LLC and then it turn out to be a corporation, because it's a completely different filing on your taxes. So once you have an establishment, it's very easy to change, but I would say I wouldn't let the tail wag the dog on that. I would say, let's talk to your accountant, let's get it taken care of. This is further back, and in my talk normally, but I'm a little biased towards Greg because Greg handles a lot of my money and a lot of my business, and I saw your name was on here, and it made me realize, like, I want to move this forward because it's a very interesting part of what's going on. And when I see business owners, this is something that I'm adamant about as being a way to think about your business, because every one of you are good at what you do. It's great when you have somebody who can, you count the beans and I'll count the pills. I mean, that's a fantastic arrangement. Stressful sometimes, but not everybody gets a chance to look up from their work and say, let's think about this from a larger issue. And what I see a lot of times is businesses that are very successful and they're very oriented to the owner, that you have. I mean, if you're for restaurants called Chuck's, like, man, it's great that Chuck is here. That worked out great. But Belk, I mean, I met the Belk family. They're not there. I don't think anything about it. I don't go like, well, I'm not going to go to Belk today. The owner's not there. There's and that's what I'm talking about creating a legacy. Because from the moment you open your business, you should have a very strong plan about what is the end for me. What am I doing this for? What is this going to look like as an exit plan? I think that Stephen Covey would say you begin with the end in mind. And I truly believe that on the micro level and on the macro level. When somebody comes to us for an appointment, one of the first things that we do is we give them the court order at the end of the case. A lot of times we'll do it right there at in the original consult. Why? Because I want them to be thinking from the very beginning of that case about what do you want this to look like in the end. Not just I'm mad and I got to do something about it. You got to be thinking about that solution. That's true in litigation, but it's even more true with your business. So when you open up your business, you need to be thinking about, okay, what do I want things to look like? And you know, when it's great. That's why, like I said, I think about Greg when I think about this. That's why I moved it all the way up to this part in the top, because he always is asking me, what do you want it to be at the end? When do you want this to be over? You know, because he knows that I can't wait until I'm 60 to say I'm going to retire at 60. You just can't do it that way. Well, it's very much the same way with your business. And remember, your business is a tool, and that's what I'm talking about, creating this legacy. So you've created something that perhaps you want to outlast you. I would hope that's what the process would be. And what you've done is you created an awesome asset. Every dollar that you spent in it is not wasted. You're building something. And guess what? There's people out there that would like to have that. That person might be a child of yours. That might be what your legacy is. Like, okay, you know, from day one, I don't know that this is what I want them to do for a living. I have, some of you know Luke and Caroline, my kids, and Luke is like, Daddy, I would never want to be a lawyer. And Caroline can't wait to be a lawyer. And that, you know, at 10 and 11, it's real easy, and who knows where they want to be in. But you know, that may be what your legacy is. But you may be along the lines of what I've been able to do with law office, and that is, it gets bigger than me. There's no way I could run 9 offices. You know, there's no way that I personally would be able to afford to have Kimberly who does nothing but marketing for us. That's what she does, and she does it over in all those offices and those people in Chamber of Commerce's and counties I didn't know existed 5 years ago. But you know, that's part of what you're wanting to do. And then it's like, you know, it sure would be nice if I didn't have to do it all. You know, a lot of times when you're a business owner or you're running the business, you feel like Atlas with the whole world on your back. And you know, one of the things is not only can you offload some of your problems, but you can get paid for that. I mean, you can divide your business up and you can sell your shares. You know, do you have somebody that's at your business that you're grooming to be able to do some of your jobs? I mean, not only is that somebody who might be like, man, they'll be a good employee, but possibly is this somebody who could take over for me and, by the way, pay me for that right to be able to do that. And it certainly has helped me out a lot in becoming debt-free and some of the things that I believe in very strongly by having people who say, like, okay, well, I'll invest into your business. And, oh, by the way, when they do that, they take some of the burden off of you. And then ultimately, the goal may be that I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I love doing this, and maybe I do want to do it for a long time, but I want to have that exit plan in place. You know, notice in here, every person knows somebody who died and the business fell apart. You know, that mechanic that was fantastic, but they died and the business went away. I mean, it's a tragedy when you think that person could have maybe had a lot less stress in their life. They would have brought in somebody who they could mentor and then buy into it. Or, you know, somebody else. I mean, there's been times where I've gone into a lawsuit between 2 companies, and you realize that instead of working against each other, they need to be working together. And I've walked out of a mediation before where 2 businesses were suing each other, and we walked out with an agreement where one company, actually the smaller company, bought the bigger company. Right there, we worked out the terms and resolved it. It's one of the weirdest things to go out to go from a lawsuit to, was, you know, the key question that was asked was like, do you really want to do this? And he was like, no. And like, we'd just love to have your business. And we started, and I mean, it was just like a moment happened, and we were like, take a step back. And by the end, had a complete deal made, and oddly enough, the other business owner stayed as an employee for them for a couple of years, and made sure all the business stayed with them during that time. So you look at these kind of things as an opportunity, and part of that is you've got to make sure you have a good, strong entity, that your documentation is very clear, that you know if you're running a restaurant, you need to be able to say, this is what my records are, this is what my gross receipts are, this is what my expenses are. You need to be able to do that. You need to be able to budget ahead of time so that you can look and say, this is what our expected profits are, because all of that keys into a value which allows you to create a legacy. And even if it is going to your child, and you're not going to necessarily get money out of that, you want to make sure that that transition is there to make that happen. Okay, quick thing on this. It takes money to run a business. I put in here, would you turn down money? And it's not easy to, if you're at a point in your business where you're like, okay, I've got to have capital. Maybe I might open up a new branch, or maybe I'm going to expand services, or I'm going to do whatever buy my building, whatever it may be. You have the possibility of somebody is going to be an investor. That is, all kinds of red flags jump up when that happens. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're not putting yourself into a bind. I jumped onto this because you have to kind of make a determination about what kind of business you're in. And since I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, and we just had quite a Sunday night, if anybody knows what I'm talking about.
I say Rob Stark.
Yeah, Rob Stark has decided, let's just do it as a hypothetical, decided to open up his own wedding planning business. He has all he needs to go forward, but would like to have a little money to get things moving. He calls his old friend Jon Snow and asks for some money to get started. You'll get your money back, says Rob, and Jon sends Rob a check for $10,000. The money is perfect for Rob, who goes on to make the business wildly successful. He sends Rob a check for $12,000 on January 1, saying, things are great. Rob, and he says, I made $100,000 last year alone. And Jon says, great, I want to get the rest of my 1/2 of the profits. Okay. When you're in business and you have money that changes hands, it happens in a ton of businesses, especially when it's family members. I had an email today from a family member who's like, Brian, who's always got investments going on. Like, oh, I got this investment. What do you want to do? Do you have anybody that would be able to help out, or whatever it may be? And I'm known enough, and I've done a little bit of business with him before to know that, I mean, he pays his debts, and he's always done a good job on that. But I was just like, man, I wish I could erase names and just send the email, so like any one of us could get this kind of email. You have that kind of point of like, okay, what do you do? And the point, I think the most important part of this is you have to clarify what is going on. And businesses tend to do one of two things. They get more successful, or they go out of business. There's very little in between. Very little like, oh, we're just going to keep doing exactly what we're doing. We make the same amount of money every year. That's just not the kind of businesses that I run into. I suppose maybe in the Fortune 500 you get to a point where it's like, okay, this is what we do. I don't know. My guess is you probably fall out unless you continue to grow. Both of those are a problem, because if somebody loans you money, even if it's a grandpa, even if somebody you trust, and says, here's this money, if you're successful, then you may have become a partnership. In North Carolina, and this is something they make you recite in law school, at least at Campbell they did, it said a partnership is 2 or more persons in a business venture for profit. That's a partnership. 2 or more persons, joint venture, for profit. That's it. That's all the elements it takes to create a partnership. If somebody gives you money, there's certainly, it becomes joint. It's for business. It's for profit. You putting yourself in a partnership. And let me tell you, on top of that, when you become a business owner, you're not conferred a degree, and not everybody that runs a business is a great business operator, but they call it business judgment rule. If you are running a business, you are assumed to have business judgment, which means if you're dealing with a non-business entity, it's going to be construed against you. So if the partnership helps that person, the courts are going to say, sorry, you're the business owner, you should have protected yourself, you're in a partnership. The flip side is also true. If they give you money, instead, Rob Stark in the wedding business goes into the red. The problem then goes the other way, and you say, sorry, John, all your money's gone. And I say, like, well, that was a loan. I want my money back. And so, but no, we were that was part of it. I mean, you were giving me money, we were hoping that it was going to work, it didn't work. Sorry, we're both out. Like, no, that was a loan to you. Business judgment rule works against you the other way around, because you did not clarify from the beginning what that is. And and that goes back to that original I had at the beginning of course you're not going to turn down money, and that's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you're going to go down that road, you better make sure that you have it clear. And you're like, well, it's my grandpa. How do I deal with grandpa? And I get that. The best thing to do would be, I would tell my clients, even at a minimum, send grandpa back a thank you note that says in it, thank you for the gift of $10,000. I certainly appreciate that. And let me tell you, I'd also go one step further and say, if you give money to a family member, consider it a gift. Just don't go down the road. It'll make Thanksgiving a lot better if you don't expect repayment. I don't know how many times people have come into my office and I say, look, I'm going, let me put my computer away, let's look. I do not want you to sue your son. I don't want you to do it. Why? Because we can walk up here to the courthouse on any given day and see that going on. And you see family members that won't talk to each other and haven't talked to each other for 10 years because they're mad about, one time, a lawnmower. It's like a $1,200 lawnmower. And it really, obviously I'm sure there's other things going on. But I'm always like, I get the Civil War now. People here are so stubborn. They would not, I'm like, they had more soldiers, they had all this, at some point you just say, like, okay, I give up, not around here. They will fight the Civil War, whatever. I'm like, and it's just like, no, you can't do that. So I do recommend, if you're the one that's doing the giving, just to say, look, it's a gift. And if they repay you, fantastic, hallelujah, you got your money back. It's a miracle. But if you don't have to be like, sorry, we can't do Thanksgiving together ever again because you owe me money. But if you're the one taking it, I would send back a letter or say, like, look, this is a loan, Grandpa, I promise you I'll pay it back. I'll give you even a better example because, a lot of people will be like, well, that doesn't really apply to me. My business is going to go great and that kind of, whatever kind of optimism. One, I think that's a little foolish, and that's not, as a lawyer, I have to be, that's our job sometimes, is to be like, let me tell you, the reason we put this in is what if, or I've seen this before, or let's, going to go into it. But this is a very common one. I had a business owner who had a daughter that was going to start a business. And let me tell you, that daughter was fantastic. There's no doubt. Could sell anything. Just has that ability and is detail oriented. On top of it, will get the stuff done. The only problem is that daughter had 2 siblings. Those 2 siblings had no business acumen whatsoever, okay? Fantastic people, but they do not need to run a business, you know? They would give away everything they had. I know them both, and that's just the nature that they would have. If they got something and somebody came up, if somebody broke into their houses, they would help them haul it off. Like, you must need it more than me, okay? One daughter would probably have would convince that robber to buy something. I go, oh, you want it? I mean, I could probably make a deal. That kind of thing. All right, everybody knows that. Probably you guys have siblings of your own that'd be like, they could not do what I'm doing. I mean, you know, you just know that. But you guys see what's going on? Dad is taking his retirement, a good chunk of his retirement, franchise kind of money, right? Some of you guys are familiar with that kind of money, and putting it into one daughter's name. Even if everybody in the world knows it's successful, what if Dad dies next year? Dad's taking his retirement, giving it to daughter. So, we put together at long length. The siblings really didn't care. I mean, it's not like they were, you know, hanging down the door. I think that they internally get it, but still, bad spot for everybody going into this. This is a lot of Dad's money, and business. You know, we all know plenty of good business owners whose businesses went out of business for whatever other reasons that were outside of their control. So we sat together, we did a document, down to this would, you know, if there was an inheritance, this is how that would break down, and this money would go back to them, and that, you know, and to really detail as much of that as we could. So, like I said, and sometimes you're protecting third parties that may or may not be involved. But all of this is a significant, and this is very real kind of stuff that you're dealing with. So, you know, very similar situations if you're dealing with a second marriage, and now you've got money coming in that, you know, you've got stepchildren that are involved, and they don't really know, like they're nervous. Wait a second, you mean, you know, they own their own business. Are you involved in that? Or what are you going to do? So all of those things are part of the warning of what we deal with. Okay. No. I have a really good one because I'm not like up on pop culture. I mean, I don't, you know, if it didn't happen in Rutherford County, it feels like international law to me. You know, people were asking me like, well, you know, the Supreme Court ruled on, I'm like,